Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Next up on my Steam list of games to review in alphabetical order is Act of War Direct Action. This is an RTS game from 2005, so it's a fairly old one. So we're going back in time here. To be exact, 14 years. And at the time, this game got favorable reviews. It was regarded as a well-crafted, modern-day RTS game that is heavily inspired by Command and Conquer. So 14 years later, how does it hold up? Well, what's interesting is that the campaign in this game is actually the best part of the game. Because in most RTS games, the campaign is nothing more than a glorified tutorial. Here, it is actually the meat of the game. It will take you around 12 to 14 hours to fight through various RTS scenarios, mixed with some, well, interesting full-motion video sequences. So again, this is very much in the tradition of the Command & Conquer series. The difference here is that in Command & Conquer, the tone is very cheesy, intentionally cheesy. In Act of War, on the other hand, the tone is quite serious, but the acting and the voices are quite bad. So the result of this is sort of an unintentional, comical RTS game. And I do appreciate that. I think it's laughable. It's really fun, and there are a lot of these sequences that sort of tell the story, and there's drama and there's escalation, and yes, it does introduce you to the RTS mechanics where you build a base and create units. But it goes way beyond that. And again, I do appreciate that. Now let's talk a little bit more about the gameplay. This game, it feels like it is stuck in the old RTS conventions. Again, you know, you build buildings and you create units. Unfortunately, you can't zoom out very far to have a good view over the battlefield, which really feels restricted. This was sort of repaired in Act of Aggression, a game that I reviewed recently. There you could actually sort of zoom out quite far and see what's going on the whole battlefield. Not in this game, so you really are restricted to that sort of field of view. The pace is very high in this game, and it requires a lot of micromanagement. For instance, if you select a group of units and order them to engage enemy units, you might find that only a bunch of your units will start shooting, and the rest might stay idle or look the other way, so you need to reselect that group and then point and click on the enemy units. So again, there's a lot of micromanagement involved. It's not very fluent in a way that all the units will notice all the enemy units that are approaching. Also, what I miss in this game is the possibility to create various formations. It's just basically a mess when you have this large army and you try to attack the enemy. It's really a lot of selecting and clicking, and they don't automatically form the most ideal formation, if you know what I mean. And also the pathfinding is not great. You will see your units struggle navigating between buildings and other obstacles. For instance, I send my units up a slope, but they will just form a line and get slaughtered one by one as they sort of climb up the hill. So that's kind of irritating, to say the least. Also, in skirmish mode, normally I like the skirmish mode better than the campaign, but it's vice versa in this game. It's really strange. Again, the campaign is a lot of fun to play, but the skirmish mode, again, the gameplay is very fast, but I have this suspicion that the AI cheats, because early on the enemy will send in tanks, and not long after you are bombarded with ballistic missiles, and that will sort of destroy half of your base. And that's on the medium difficulty. Although it does not hold up very well in terms of graphics. I mean, I haven't really talked about the graphics, right? But again, a game from 2005, you can't really fault the graphics 14 years later. Of course, it looks worse, but it is still nice to look at in a way, especially when there's a lot of stuff going on and explosions. They still look great, I think. And it's stuck in the old RTS conventions, but it still scratches that itch for being like this commander, this strategic mastermind, that it's the player who creates the buildings and you decide where you put them down, and you decide what units to build, and or what your army looks like and where you send your army next to. So it does. There is that still that sort of spark of fun there, and it's not just nostalgia. I think, because if you're new to the genre, you play this game, it's easy to pick up. But I guess there are a lot of frustrations looking back on it. It's still very playable. I still like it. You know, it's not great, but it's fun while it lasts. I guess that's the conclusion of this review. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.